This film also had the creepiest Santa. And you could,
oh my god,
yeah!
We need to find the fourth dimension, and by finding all these tiny little perfect things that happen in our neighborhood or in our town or whatever, we're gonna find the fourth dimension, and we're missing one. I'll pick Andrew Garfield. Peter 3.
Peter 3.
Ooh, that comic book filter.
This green ball?
This green tennis ball is Vecna,
Yes.
yeah. We're talking about Chippendales the dancers, right? Not Chippendales the chipmunks? Okay, I was just making sure. I didn't see it, but I know what you're talking about.
Hey, cinema peeps.
Hey, cinema peeps.
Oh boy. Every time I think, I'm like, I'm not gonna yawn. But my body subconsciously is like, we're gonna yawn.
We're recording? Okay. Got a yawn on deck.
It's like when we go to the gym, we're like, okay, let's not go to the bathroom. We're gonna just drive to the gym, go straight to working out. And every time my body's like, we should go to the bathroom. Doesn't matter how insignificant it is, we're going to the bathroom because this is routine now, and yeah, you can't break it. So have fun.
There you go. Yep.
This is the tradition you chose, and you're gonna stick with it, whether you like it or not.
Routine is life.
Right?
Football is life.
But damn, I just can't get over that rainbow. Damn, girl, damn.
Magical unicorn rainbow.
Ooh. Like a Sailor Scout.
Ooh, yeah. Speaking of Sailor Moon, I didn't realize they put the 90s show on Crave.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, so I started watching it because I haven't seen it since I was like in grade 3, I think. Of course, because they've changed some. Because like when I watched Sailor Moon, I knew her as Serena, but I know that's not her real name because I know at least from what the digging I did, they tried to Americanize a lot of the show, and they took out a lot of like Japanese culture and everything, which sucks that they would do that, but that's in the past, so they were able to kind of change it back, and the company that has now had the rights to it or whatever.
Oh, really?
They have the original name, so...
Nice.
Oh god, I'm gonna butcher it, but I think her name's Usagi? Usagi?
I'm gonna say that sounds right, but it's been a hot minute, so...
I think it's Usagi. It's been a couple days since I've watched it again, but... Yeah, so I started watching it for shits, because I was like, man, I haven't seen this in, like, so long, and I used to love watching this show. Why not, right?
Hells yeah. No, I gotta do that. That sounds dope as hell.
Right? Yeah.
That sounds dope.
It's so funny watching it from the beginning, though, because, like, I think when I watched it as a kid, I don't think I actually watched it consecutively. It was just, like, if it was on TV, I saw the random episode. And I don't think they showed all the episodes on TV. I do remember...
I could see that.
Yeah, because I think I had to piece, like, story together in my mind based off of all the episodes I saw. But... It's funny how in the first few episodes of the season or the series, it's just very like clockwork. It's the same type of stuff because she's just learning her powers, and she's got like the exact same sequence for everything, and then Tuxedo Mask comes in to save the day, and then I love that she like catches on after a while, and it's like he saves the day a couple of times, and then she like has to start doing stuff on her own, and she'll be like, oh, here's the part where he comes to save me usually, and then he doesn't show up, and it's like, no, you've got to do this yourself, and it's so cute.
Yeah, I just remember like again, speaking of like the Americanization of the show, I remember like there was that thing at the end that they did with this, I want to call it a squiggly, but they basically like don't do a full frame of the like they take a piece of the show and be like, this was the lesson that was learned, and they have like the 90s like background to it, and it's like that voiceover being like, we learned about real friendship and how we need to be there for one, like, you know, and so kind of weird, like they had to bring in a lesson every time. Yeah, they do that at the beginning, I think, of this version, where they kind of tease the show, and it's like, how dare you, what does she say? She's like, how dare you take advantage of people's love of cute little furry animals and stuff like that. In the name of the moon, I'll punish you. It's so cute. Right, I'm pretty sure that was made for America. Oh, really? Okay. I don't think that was a Japanese thing, but maybe I'm wrong. I think that was part of the Americanization, but I could be, again, speaking out my asshole. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. I just thought that was the
I
case.
did some brief digging because I was just curious to find out why, because and I remember the voices were different too, and so again, in doing the research that I did through IMDb and just like Googling some articles and stuff like that, because specifically I remember Sugar, I cannot remember her last name, but Sugar, she was the host of YTV. She's on The Flash.
Yes.
She plays the voice of Minnie Moon, or at least from the version that I remember, she played the voice of Minnie Moon. But that
Sugar was on. Sorry, can we back up 2 seconds? You said Sugar was on The Flash?
Yeah. She played in season 4. She played
the unlucky girl?
Yeah. That's her.
No.
Did I just blow your mind?
A little, yeah. What?
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
her.
crazy. Because I was gonna say, just this last episode, they bring her back.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, are you caught up? Because she just came back on the show. Yeah.
And part of me was like happy because I did enjoy her in season 4, but
Yeah.
then I was like a little bit mad because they're just like, literally, they're like, I thought Barry said she died. I'm like, that is correct.
She did.
And
the
they're
thinker killed her, right?
I was so devastated.
Right?
Like, I mean, when they all died, but I was just like, oh man, that's rough. And then just for them to be like, oh yeah, and they're like, well, you know what? Barry reset the multiverse. She was lucky. I was like,
I mean, we're getting off track from this.
I know.
I feel like they're using like the multiverse as an easy scapegoat for things now, and I was not very happy with that episode. As but apparently was a lot of people. But I digress.
I enjoyed the concept of the episode. I don't like the fact that they kind of were just like, she's back.
Yeah.
For like no rhyme or
reason. Purpose for exactly. She didn't have a reason for being there. It was a filler episode.
Right, which again, as we said, is rough, but like I still enjoyed like Cecile and like, you know, they're having their own adventure. That's fine. Yeah. But sorry, the whole point I was trying to make is that I have a CD, that's my best CD, my YTV 3 party mix that is bomb. And there's a song she sings at the end with Carlos, and her voice is so grainy, and I hate it so much. But on the show, which I mean, it's just her voice. I love her, so that's really funny. But anyways, continue.
I do remember those CDs. I did have one of those. I feel like it was like the 11th one or whatever because they made so many of them.
Oh yeah, I have like Big Shiny Tunes.
Planet
Pop,
Shiny Tunes, Planet Pop. Yep.
Bro, that was the before
before iTunes,
Spotify Shuffle, or you know, that's how you found new artists. They just mashed it on a CD and you
Shiny
listened to
Tunes. Yeah.
I've been looking for my Big Shiny Tunes 3 CD for like I feel like a century. I don't know where it is.
Just the other day, last month actually, I went to a thrift store and there was like 3 or 4 Big Shiny Tunes, and I bought them.
Fuck yeah!
I was like, hell yeah.
Hells yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, sorry. You said Sugar voiced. She was on The Flash, where she voices one of the cats.
No. So there was kind of in the later seasons of Sailor Moon. There's a girl, little girl who comes. She's the newest edition, and she's Minnie Moon. Rini, I think is her name. Yeah. But I just specifically remember as a kid in the 90s, having watched YTV, Sugar's voice is so iconic and so notable. When you watch the show, you recognize her voice instantly, and I remember confirming that it was her who was voicing her. So then again, switch to nowadays, when I discovered that the show was on Crave, I was like, oh, I wonder like if it's still going to be the same voices, and supposedly it's not. So, which is a little disappointing, but again, I don't know. I haven't watched like fast forwarded that far. Maybe it is. I'm like, I don't know. But on IMDb, there's 2 separate versions of the Sailor Moon. There's the American version, which has Sugar under the cast of all that stuff, and then there's this version, the Japanese version. Yeah.
Oh, so the one on Crave, like, because sometimes like you can on Crunchyroll you can watch things subbed and not subbed versus dub, I guess. So if you want, you can watch it with the English dubbed voices over the show.
Yeah.
But if that's not your jam, you could also just watch it subbed with the original Japanese. So is the one you're watching with Japanese voices with subtitles?
Well, see, here's where I got confused and why I ended up doing the research in the first place, is because it is English dubbed on Crave.
Okay.
But it's different voices. Like
Voices.
if you go onto
Interesting.
IMDb and type in Sailor Moon, you have to really like the only way, because when I typed it in Sailor Moon, it came up with the original Japanese voice actors who are
Correct.
speaking in English, but they're the Japanese actors. So then there's that Sailor Moon from the 90s, and there's like all the other ones that have been created since.
Right.
And I couldn't find the American version anywhere. It doesn't show up on the search bar. So the only way I could actually go back and like look for the Sailor Moon version that has Sugar in it, I had to search Sugar's name up and go under her IMDb and go like all the way back to find it. So it's a completely separate thing. And so I'm assuming, again, based off all the, the kind of unfairness that was going on with the copyrights and stuff like that, I don't know if that version's just doesn't exist anymore, or if you really have to dig for it, or, I don't know.
Well, there's also, what are words? So, like you said, you're watching the 90s version.
Yeah.
So, I don't even remember. Semi-new. I think it's been on for 5 or 6 years, though. They've done a Sailor Moon Crystal show, which is kind of like a reimagining of the 90s show.
Okay.
With, like, updated animation and stuff, so be interesting.
Yeah. Have you watched the Crystal one?
I've watched a couple episodes of Crystal, but it's been a hot minute.
Yeah.
My friend was saying that I think it's the Crystal one follows a little more closely with like the manga's portrayal of the Sailor Scouts. Because again, I don't know if it was like I think it's easy to be like, it's the American version, I blame them.
Yeah.
But I guess like, I don't know, when they made this show, the 90s version, sorry, I guess they make the main character of Sailor Moon, like, she's very clumsy in the show. Like, it's very appealing for, like, a kid audience, but I guess that's not how she is in the manga.
Okay.
So, I don't know. Again, it's interesting to see, like, what, like, these divergent paths of, like, the creating of this show and that show versus back to the source material.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, and again, I could be absolutely wrong, and I apologize if I am, but I believe Sailor Moon Crystal follows closely to the manga. Okay. Although now I think it has its own manga. Like, it's very confusing, people.
That's a lot.
Again, I would want to rewatch all of it, because I would love it.
Right? I'd be curious to check out the new version. I had heard a couple of people say that it wasn't as good, but then again, I don't know if they're basing it off of the love for the 90s version.
I will say, I think my friend's definitely in the boat where I think she likes it. Obviously, it's not as, I think it's hard to replace anything that you grew up with, like nostalgia. You're going to have those blinders on regardless.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, like, it is a good show. And really, that's kind of what I'm not looking for a show to replace how I feel about my childhood emotions. I just want something that is I can enjoy watching. So if it's a good show, that's all I really care about at the end of the day.
Well, and just for the sake alone that, like, you said the 90s version portrays her as kind of like this klutzy, clumsy, ditzy girl who gets bestowed these powers, really didn't want them, or was didn't ask for them, and then she has to take on this responsibility. So as a young girl watching that's kind of cool to see, like, oh, it's like, oh, she could be a superhero, I could be a superhero too, I can be brave, kind of stuff. But if this version's maybe, kind of a different different storyline, then that's kind of interesting too. I'd be interested to see what they do.
So it just sounds like we have to binge a lot of Sailor Moon, is what
apparently
I'm
hearing. That's the new thing we're doing, binge watching Sailor Moon.
Right. I'm also curious, because you said earlier how, like, they Americanized and took out some of, like, the Japanese culture from the show. That also, so it reminds me of two things. So one, that reminds me of Pokemon as well, where in the show they were like, man, these donuts are very yummy. And I don't know who they were trying to fool, because even as a child I was like, those aren't fucking donuts. Like, they're eating rice balls. But
okay.
For whatever reason, the translation just thought we were too stupid to understand.
They figured they were like the powdered donuts or something, maybe?
Maybe. I don't know. So it is interesting, like, how that was, like, a very prevalent thing.
Yeah.
But I will say, at least for, like, the Pokemon anime, I guess the only positive is that banger of a theme song.
Yeah.
That they made.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. But the other thing I'm curious about because you said, like, they seem to be, at least the version you're watching on Crave seems slightly different. So there are two Sailor Scouts. Is it Jupiter and Uranus? I don't remember which two. Well, there's like two more Sailor Scouts that get introduced,
Right.
and I guess in the at least in the '90s show, they were like, oh yeah, they're cousins, but they were actually like a lesbian couple.
Oh.
But again, in the '90s, that obviously did not fly.
Yeah.
And obviously, so they hardcore changed it. But of course, people were very confused because there'd be like, not seductive poses, but clearly be like very affectionate towards each other. And they're like,
Right.
oh, they're cousins. And it's like,
You're like, well, huh?
huh?
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to know, I guess, how many seasons are on Crave and what if that changes, something that stayed, or they tried to refix that from their past mistakes.
Right. To my knowledge, there is 5 seasons.
Okay, so
I
maybe
think.
they might show up. Okay.
Maybe
Maybe
yeah.
they might show
Right?
up.
Because again, like I just recall glimpses of the show from as a kid. So
Right, and I mean, I only know this factoid because for some reason that was a playground fact that was shared amongst people.
okay.
Like, I definitely did not get that far into the show.
Right. Okay. I'm interested to see, as I go forward, because like I remember, or even in the research, there was people commenting, being like, "Does the theme song change as the series goes on too?" Because the theme song's obviously different. There's the Japanese version, and then there's the American version. Everybody else, or the English version at least, that everybody else knows.
Again, another bang. At least like the Americans made banger opener songs.
Yeah,
At
yeah.
Like bare. Again, that does not excuse any of the other bad shit they did, but like, damn,
Right?
banger songs.
Right. Exactly.
Bangers.
And two, like, I guess, which I understand as far as like the demographic they were going for the show. They changed a lot of like the art of like the women's bodies and how they're portrayed, because obviously in the Japanese versions, they're curvier, you see cleavage, all that kind of stuff, and then in the American version, all that was kind of erased essentially.
Which is kind of funny to me. Like, sorry, let me clarify. I don't think it's funny to sexualize children.
Right. Yes.
But it's interesting about this whole, like, I don't know what the best, like, sexualizing culture. I don't know if that's really the right mesh of words.
Mm-hmm.
But to think, like, yeah, stuff that comes overseas, we will censor that. But sometimes, like, there's stuff, like, we show over here. I'm like, really? Like, that's okay to show?
Right.
So it is, like, interesting, like, what we deem as okay to show versus
Yeah.
not okay. And unfortunately, it does seem like stuff that comes overseas, we censor pretty heavily.
Which is interesting.
But then
'cause...
here, it's like, shouldn't we have the same rules applying?
Right. Yeah.
If
No.
that's the
It's
case, but,
it's very
you
interesting, the history of censorship in as far as like nudity and sexuality and all that kind of stuff. Because even from what we've learned in school, like it was like what, back in the 20s or even earlier than that. Whenever movies first started being made, it was like around the time when stories were being formed and stuff. It was like almost, it was illegal to show toilets because it was considered like
Right. That's hilarious to me.
Yeah. It was like
right. It's hilarious now because you're like, a toilet?
right. And so they had to find creative ways to like kind of symbolize some sort of sexual activity was going on, like the dude smoking a cigarette after they're laying in bed, kind of thing, like all
the
that
rain
stuff,
on
right?
the cut to the rain on the window.
Yeah, exactly, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we got the or our classic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting that how things have progressed over time, because now I think it was actually you who told me we were talking about it a couple episodes ago, where it's like sex scenes and stuff are almost like they're encouraged in shows because it gets people to watch it, like attracts people in, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like it went from being such a scandalous kind of like, oh no, shush, we don't do that kind of stuff, to now it's like, we want more people, throw some sex scenes in there, kind of thing, right? And then
again,
I'll just finish off my thought, but
go for it,
as
girl.
far as like Sailor Moon goes, being the Japanese with the art and stuff like that. Again, I'm not huge into that culture, so I might just be talking out of my ass too. But like, I feel like just the way the art is of how they kind of like draw the figures and stuff like that. From what I've seen, obviously going to Comic-Cons, seeing all the different stuff, that's just like the way they draw or the way they're portrayed is part of the manga or part of the art or whatever, right? It's I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, there's some shows that definitely like lean very heavy in the, you know, big boobs,
Right.
weenie chest, big
Yeah.
ass, and some that are definitely not. And I think, again, I think this is just my observation. I think it depends on the content of the show. Because, like I said, I think sometimes if they are doing that, they're playing into it more.
Right.
And it's more sometimes seen as like comedy. And I think there's sometimes where it is just like overly sexualized for absolutely no reason.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes it does lead into like this like me and my brother were just talking about the other day about this whole like the whole classic trope of like, again, kind of speaking the same vein of like Sailor Moon, but like slice of life animes, or at least ones that are centered around like young adults, young kids. And there's always the scene where it's like, oh, she's got big boobs, and she's like, hey, don't look at me like that, punch. Or the classic the guy gets a nosebleed.
Yeah.
Because I guess it's, again, supposed to simulate, like, wow, you're so attractive.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Right.
And I was always just like, what is the weather like in Japan? Is it just that dry that people be getting fucking bloody noses everywhere? So, yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to, like, to learn more, to, you know, to understand it more. But again, from what my observations, I would say, yeah, I think part of it is the art style of whatever show they're going for. And again, I think sometimes it is played up for the humor, which I think sometimes is very easy to obviously misinterpret.
Right.
Misinterpret?
Yes.
Misinterpret? Yeah. Can you misinterpret the misinterpret, please?
Yeah.
But I do think, yeah, sometimes, and again, I think this is just maybe us as people, we just like to over-sexualize things for some reason deep down. I haven't figured it out yet, but if someone knows, let me know as well. But it would be interesting to see, like, the connections between, again, how, you know, not Japanese, but, like, again, maybe just, like, how we portray women in anime versus over here in the West.
Yeah.
Because I also find sometimes, and again, speaking of, like, oh, sex sells. Like, sometimes I'm like, yeah, I want my two main characters to get together. Come on, do it. Kiss. Do it.
Yeah.
I think I remember... Maybe I'd have to go back and rewatch, but I think for some reason I remember the most Sailor Jupiter joining.
Really?
Yeah. She's the one who wears green.
Right.
Yeah. Because, like, her whole episode... And again, maybe, again, like, saying that because they only played certain episodes. So I feel like this one I must have seen at least once or twice. But I just remember, like, her whole thing was, like, at an arcade with a guy. And how he kind of has, like, force powers. And he, like, uses them to, like, win the claw machine. And then donates the toys to kids.
Okay.
So, like, I don't know why that episode sticks in my mind, but that's the one I remember. That's the one I've locked in. A core memory. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's a core memory now. Can't get rid of it.
Interesting.
Can't get rid of it. Although, what was my thought? So, I've saw 2 interesting movie trailers, and I want to know if you've seen them.
Oh, okay. I also saw a couple of movie trailers. We could discuss a few
Hells yeah.
upcoming movies. But yes, what were yours?
So, last night I saw a trailer for BlackBerry the movie. The story of how the BlackBerry phone was made.
What?
Yeah. But this intense drama of the making of the BlackBerry phone.
Oh my gosh.
Because apparently it has an insane origin story.
So I've told. My dad was a big fan of the BlackBerry phones, and I'm sure he'd probably be interested in watching that. But yes, he has said it's a very insane, crazy story, just origin story, and just how the technology of the BlackBerry has been taken from the phone and incorporated into other things now is crazy too.
Right? And I wouldn't say that that's the craziest thing I've seen. But then I saw another trailer before that, so for some reason that made this one feel less crazy.
Oh, really?
It's coming out on Apple TV, and it's the origins of the Tetris game.
What?
Yeah, and how it's originally a game from Russia, and how it got brought over to the States, and then became one of the most successful selling games at the time because they packaged it with the Game Boy when the Game Boy released, and that was, you know, very hot time. But I did not know there was this crazy backstory to all of it. And the trailer is wild.
Wow.
And it stars what's his name? Tarragon. Oh my god, no. That guy, you know who I'm talking about, I really hope.
Terrence?
Yeah, he was in that not Elvis. He was in oh my god, that musical movie Rocket Man.
Oh, Taron Egerton.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
So he's in the Tetris movie.
Oh, interesting.
So it's coming out at the end of this month. So I might have to check it out. Since I'm pretty sure Ted Lasso season 3 is the last season, I'm going to probably cancel my Apple subscription.
Oh, it's really going to be the last season?
Supposedly, that's what my mom looked up, and from all the posts I've seen from all the stars, it's definitely the last one.
Aww.
And I guess the reason is because apparently people don't watch past season 3.
Really?
Now, I don't know. This could be a whole other debate about watchability of TV shows, but like at the same time, maybe it's good to go on a high note versus, going on forever. But
yeah, I mean, we've definitely given our, girthy opinions on story and shows and how they get past their prime. So I guess I can understand that.
Right. I mean, it's still sad, but
it is.
But yeah, those are the two wacky fucking trailers I saw. The Tetris game trailer and the Blackberry. And there was someone else that said there was a trailer for the pinball, which I haven't seen. But I'm guessing it's the same vein as these guys, that these this crazy underground story that you just don't know about.
Interesting. That reminds me of a TV show that was on... I think it's still on actually, but it's like The Toys That Made America or something like that.
Yeah.
And there was one episode I was watching where it was talking about how Jenga was invented, and how the lady who invented it was just a mom trying to. I think she was a struggling mother, single mom. She was just either trying to invent a game that was her goal, or she just happened to stumble upon. By happy accident, discovered how to do Jenga.
Okay.
I think she was tasked with trying to figure out a children's game, and then through watching her little boy play this game that he just really loved to do, and it gave her something to connect with him and the grandma too. It gave them a thing to do together. She ended up creating Jenga, but the way the name was made was because in Swahili Jenga means to build, I guess, and she's from Swahili, or she is Swahili.
That's kinda
I think.
cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. Yeah, but I feel like that they kind of almost fits in the same realm as all these different games and things that
It just feels so weird that this is the year of did you hear this crazy story of how this was made? Get a load of this movie.
Right?
So bizarre. Again, it's plausible, 1 or 2 come in the same year, but 3?
Right?
How weird.
Yeah, it kind of, I mean, and you could, I guess, be cynical and be like, oh, we're really running out of ideas here now. We've got to, have the origins of shit.
I mean, I guess, but if it's a really cool origin, why the fuck not? Because I feel golden age of the internet, it's a fantastic time, but at the same time, I feel like you have access to so much information. There's so much stuff that falls through the cracks and you don't really get to know about. So, if these things want to shed light on it, fuck yeah.
Why not, right?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, those are my wacky trailers. How about, you said you had some. What were your wacky ones you saw this week?
They're not super wacky, but they do look really good, in my opinion.
Okay.
I went and saw Shazam 2. Electric Boogaloo.
Saw that on your Instagram.
Yeah. No, it's Shazam 2 Fury of the Gods, but Zachary Levi's been calling it Shazam 2 Electric Boogaloo.
I mean, it works.
Right? It works. But anyways, I can either share my thoughts on that a little bit later if we have time. Otherwise, we can save that for another episode because it was damn good. It was a great movie. And I have some things. But anyways, the 2 trailers that they showed. Well, there was 3 because The Flash was the other one too, which was good. But the 2 new trailers that I hadn't seen before that were on there, in kind of the same realm of the origin stories of stuff, was one called Air. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it stars Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and it's about the Nike...
Again, this weird thing where it's do you know how the Nike shoe was made? Here's the crazy story.
But it's not even like just Nike too. It's according to the story, Nike's already been established. I don't think they're quite as, I'm assuming, I could be wrong, I don't think they're quite as big as they are now at the time of this, but it's okay. Again, I'm paraphrasing roughly. So, but Matt Damon is like he's like the marketer, or his role is something to do with creating the next big shoe for Nike, and so obviously based off a true story, he ends up pitching to Ben Affleck, who I think is the CEO of Nike, pitching to him. He's like, I got this idea. I've got this guy that we can use. He can rep our next version of the shoe, and it happens to be Michael Jordan. So obviously it ties in the story of Michael Jordan and all this stuff, and then you find out that it's obviously about the Air Jordans, which is the shoe that he coined, and he became the rep of and everything. So again, the trailer makes it look really, really cool and really interesting. Hopefully it still stands up that way, but I was invested, so I'm kind of curious to check it out. It looks pretty good. But yeah, again, along the lines of like the origins of stuff, it was kind of like similar to that, right?
Again, weird year for this. I don't know why this is the year, but I'll take it. Sure.
Yeah. Well. And then the second one was, I don't know if you ever read a book when you were younger. I feel like
I don't read.
Right? I feel like every young teenage girl was either gifted this book or it was bestowed upon them at some point. But it's a book.
Bestowed. You reach that age. It just happens. You run into another lady at the bookstore and she goes, "This is your time."
Well, basically, because I feel like everyone knows about this, or at least every girl. But it's called.
Check my shelf. I'm ready.
It's called "Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret."
Oh.
Did you ever read that book?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just funny. I went to a Catholic school. You would have thought that'd been right up our alley.
Right? Yeah. I'm going to quickly, so that I don't make a fool of myself, Google the author of the book. I'm getting the two mixed up, but it's
Hello, God, it's me, Margaret.
Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
Oh, I'm sure my mom has an extensive book collection.
Okay.
I'm sure it's in her.
It is by
collection.
Judy Blume. Yes, I was getting, it was either Judy Blume or Beverly Clearly, but it's Judy Blume.
Okay.
Who did this book? And yeah, it's a book. It's a coming of age tale about a young girl becoming a teenager, starting to like boys. All the fun stuff that happens when you're a teenage girl. And I just remember my mom passing it on to me and telling me to read it. Of course, I wasn't into books at the time, so it was like homework wanting to read it. And then I just remember hearing, just throughout time, that it was a book that a lot of young girls were gifted by their moms or just read because it was, relevant to what they were experiencing.
Interesting.
And then, so now they've made it into a movie. Kind of looks like it's along the style of, like the Stand By Me's and the Now and Thens. Like it's set in the 70s, I think.
Okay.
So it's going to be like a period piece. Rachel McAdams is in it. Kathy Bates is in it. So that's kind of cool. It looks funny. The trailer makes it look really funny. And I do remember, from the very little that I do remember reading the book, it was a good book. So I feel like it'll be a sweet story to see.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not a very religious person. So when I hear, "Hey, God," I'm like, how religious is this? How oppressive to women is this going to be?
Yeah, well, I'm sure they'll probably update it a little bit for, today's audiences. But I feel I don't remember it being that religious. I think it was just meant to be like, I feel like, again, I don't want to I don't want to start saying things that maybe aren't true, but from what I remember, it was kind of more of a tongue-in-cheek sort of thing, where it was just like this girl is kind of talking to God about, like, her experience growing up as a kid or as a teenager, and just kind of like there's one part where she's like, "I really want boobs, please give me boobs," kind of thing, right? so it's like she just, the struggles of being a teenager or becoming a teenager. So it's more of a comedy than anything. Yeah.
Okay. I'll say it's on my mom's shelf.
So yeah, I feel like it'll be a fun, cute little movie to watch. But yeah, those were the two trailers I saw during Shazam.
Damn.
Shazam.
Damn. That just reminds me of the movie I bought that I've been meaning to watch. What was it called? Yes, God, Please, or something? I don't think that's the exact title. But it has Nancy from Stranger Things in it.
Oh, cool.
I think it's supposed to be a satire film about God and... Or not, sorry, I shouldn't say God specifically, but like the Catholic religion. It's supposed to take place in the 90s when women were basically shunned for doing anything. So Nancy gets sent away because, she's a woman and she's got urges.
Right.
And they're like, send you away to this camp to reduce your urges. And spoiler alert, I don't think it works. But I think it's called Yes, God, Please or something. Again, on my long agenda of things to watch.
Yes.
Because now I gotta watch Sailor Moon, so like everything else gets put in the back burners.
Yep.
I need to go to the movies and watch something.
Go see Shazam, then we can talk about it.
Okay, I'll figure it out. I'll go somehow. Anyways, that'll do it for today's episode.
Yes.
Thank you all for tuning in and watching.
Yes.
Hope you enjoyed today's episode on Sailor Moon and the wacky trailers that we watched this week / last week. What was your favorite? Let us know in the comments down below. Have you watched Sailor Moon? Have you watched the reboot? Have you seen any of these kooky trailers we're talking about?
Yeah.
Leave it all down in those comments down below. And leave us a deuce. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
And consider subscribing to what I think is two pretty cool gals. I gotta say. But anyway, cinema peeps, watch all the content and we'll see ya next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Monkey.
Monkey.